And today, does anybody know who Eisenhower was? Eisenhower? Who was Eisenhower?
That was...
Huh? Who was that?
A guy.
He was a general, I think.
In Russia.
Was he a Russian? I think he was American.
He was called Eisenhower?
He could have been originally Russian, but no, he was American, and I think he was a general in the American army in the Second World War. Yeah? Anyway, he is famous. One of the reasons he's famous is for being the author, and he wasn't the author, somebody else was the author, but this is called Eisenhower's Matrix. Okay. And so this is the original source of this method. And it's also called the time management matrix, which is where you see it very, very often. Okay? And what this thing does is that it allows you to look at some of the things you do relative to a couple of criteria. Yeah? So we've got things that are urgent. Do you know what urgent means? Like if you need to go to the toilet. Yeah? If you really need to go to the toilet, then it's urgent. If you don't go to the toilet, bad things will happen. Wet trousers, the floor, the teacher, your friends. Horrible. Can you imagine that? Well, okay, so urgent. Ooh, you're picturing it, aren't you? Just imagine all of the windows are closed, you can't get out, you're stuck here, yeah? The door's locked. No. So, urgent. And then at the bottom, we have important. Yeah? So, wichtig in German and dringend. So, urgent...
It means the same thing, doesn't it?
Huh?
No.
No, urgent and important are different because important is not related to time. Yeah? Urgent has got a clock or a watch going tick-a-tock, tick-a-tock. Yeah? So it's very, very related to time. Okay? Just like going to the loo. If you need to go to the loo, time is very important. You only have seconds left. Yeah? So, here, on this side, we have got things that are not important and not urgent. Make sense? So what is an example of something that is not important and not urgent?
Surfing the internet.
Surfing the internet. Yeah? Good. Yeah? Lots of people say some telephone calls, checking your email, stuff like that. Okay? Now we have something here. On the other side, we've got something that is very urgent and very important up here. Yeah? Something that's really, really, really important and really urgent. Okay? And what we call this is we call it firefighting. Firefighting? Firefighting, you can imagine needing to fight a fire. You know, like the fireman. Yeah? When you're fighting a fire, do you have control when you are fighting a fire? No. You don't have control over anything if you're fighting a fire. And if you wait for things to become very urgent and very important, then you're never going to be able to take control of them. Yeah? So this is something that you obviously need to do first, because it's got the most priority. Yeah? But it's not something that you want to do first, right? Because it means you don't have control over it. Okay? Here, we've got things that are very urgent, but not very important. Okay? What could that be? Something that is very urgent, but not very important. Homework.
No, that's
No.
urgent and important.
That's urgent and important.
Christmas present.
Huh? What's another example?
Going to the loo.
No.
Going to the loo.
Oh,
that's important.
It's very important.
I don't think I will write that on my list, would I?
Probably not. But something that, like when you're working in a big company, I speak to a lot of people and they say, the things my boss asks me to do are urgent but not important. Yeah? So for somebody they're important but not for me. I just have to do them and I have to do them now.
But it's also important because if you don't do it, you won't get your money and you'll get fired. So it's important.
Okay, then it's important. Yeah, if you don't get your money and you get fired, then it's very important. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, if you work for the Austrian government, you never get fired. Ever. You can have a job forever and ever and ever. Which means, something that's urgent but not important, yeah, is annoying. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like annoying. Oh, I have to do this, but it's not important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? So we don't want to do these things if possible, or we want to avoid them, because it's annoying to have lots of things that have to be done now, and none of them are important. Yeah? So this is the place where we want to spend as much time as possible. Okay? Because this is the place where things are important, but they're not urgent. So we don't have the time. Yeah? We don't have this problem. We don't have the stress and the pressure of this going on. Yeah? We don't have the fear. We don't have the problems associated with, oh my God, I have to get it done now. All we have is the realization that something important needs to happen. Okay? So things that are important but not urgent. The problem is that these things are the strategic things, the big things, right? These are the big projects, these are the big ideas, these are the things that you've got in your mind that you want to get done. They're important, you want to get them done in 6 months' time or a year's time. But they're big, like big project things. Which means we're human, and very often we will decide to let them sit. We will ignore them, yeah, until they become urgent. And then they're important and urgent, and we can't take control of them anymore. So what we try and do is we try and do these things first, because these are the most important things. They take priority over everything else there. But that means you need to plan them well and think about what they are. I saw a great example once. A guy comes into the room with a bucket. Okay? He gets a bucket. A bucket. In English you have to pronounce your T's. Do you tell what do you pronounce? You have to... A bucket. A bucket. A bucket. If you speak proper English, then you don't need to say your T's. Anyway. So he comes in with a bucket, and he gets a bunch of big stones, yeah? And he puts all of the stones into the bucket, yeah? And he says, is the bucket full? And the class says, yeah, the bucket is full. And then he gets a bag full of little stones, and he pours the little stones on top of the big stones and shakes them. Mm-hmm. And they all fall through. And then he says, is the bucket full? And the class is going, yeah, the bucket is full. And then he gets a bag of sand. And he pours the sand into the bucket and shakes it. And all of the sand drops through the big stones. And he says, is the bucket full? And they say, oh, God. Yes, the bucket's full now.
And then he puts water in.
And then he gets a glass of water. Glass of water, pours it into the top. Yeah? And he says, is the bucket full? And they say, we think so. We think the bucket is full. Okay? So, the principle is this. You can fit a lot into the bucket, But most importantly, if you begin with the water, and then the sand, and then the little stones, you won't get the big stones in. Yeah? Because it'll overflow. So if you don't put the big stones into the bucket first, they won't go in at all. That's the important thing about things that are important or urgent.